Welcome to Porsches and Prophecy with me, Carl Lawley. Please join us every week as we transform my dusty old Porsche restoration shop into a fun Bible prophecy study where we discuss the prophetic timeline and the crazy current events we're all witnessing around the world. Enjoy. So last week we were talking about 1999 and the solar eclipse that happened that went across Europe in August. I think it was August 11th. I don't have this in my notes tonight. And how within 1 week's time they had a solar eclipse. The epicenter, I don't know if that's really the right word for it, for a solar eclipse, but basically the center point where it was the most perfect viewing was in Romania, which is interesting because Romania, that name means citizen of Rome. And then during a one week time, there were two grand crosses in the heavens, basically. And this is the best thing I could find to kind of explain what that is. The Earth is in the center, and then you've got basically planets in alignment, like a cross. And it happened twice in 1 week's time. This is something that never happens, okay? Remember, so let me back up a little bit. So Genesis 1:14 says that basically God put the sun, moon, stars there for signs and for seasons. And Jesus also says roughly the same thing in Matthew 24. And so we should be looking at what's going on up there. This isn't astrology.
What's the Leo, the Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio thing?
Oh, that's just the Mazzaroth sign. That's Jewish. Zodiac is Greek, whatever. Mazzaroth is Jewish. Mm-hmm. That's this Leo is obviously, that's Judah, the line of Judah. I don't really understand all of that.
Is that online like that? You found it like that already?
Yeah, so, oh yeah, I didn't make that.
Oh, okay.
So the point is in 1999, which is roughly 50 years after Israel was reborn, right?
Yeah.
Matching Psalm 50, which is the first Psalm of Asaph, which means harvest. There's one Psalm of Asaph that's dislocated. It's Psalm 50. The rest of them are 23 Psalms later from 73 to 84. So it makes you wonder, nobody really knows why they were dislocated, right? If you take Psalm 50 and you add 30 to it, you end up at 80, which aligns with the year 2028. And then you look at, 30, how many rulers that relate to Israel all became king when they were 30 years old. So there's just a lot of interconnectivity here. So David, Jesus started his ministry when he was 30 years old. Nimrod, according to ancient Hebrew texts, became king when he was 30. Joseph became the ruler under Pharaoh when he was 30 years old. The Bible points all of these things out, not the Nimrod, but the other things, for a reason.
I got my first pastor at 30.
You did? There you go. Pastor Pete's the Antichrist. We figured it out.
Is that one of the two witnesses?
Well, yeah, could be. So, have you started reading the book? Do you have the book?
No, I have not got to buy it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, things are tight. Money's tight.
By the way, I still have to pay you for it.
No.
For what?
No, Kristen already did.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
At church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she gave me 50, and I didn't have change, so the next week I gave her the $10 back.
Okay.
I was hoping it was a tip, but it wasn't. No, I'm kidding.
Don't play out in the freeway.
Yeah.
There's a tip.
Yeah. So, basically, Pete, this is going to be hard because you don't have the book. So basically, I'll start from the beginning.
I'm just going to follow along.
Well, it's going to be really hard too, though. So let me just give you like a real quick.
I am super smart.
Okay.
Yeah, just go on with your class.
Okay.
Do not do anything special for me. Do not do anything special. But,
Well, ask a lot of questions then.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this isn't going to make a lot of sense.
Or ask none.
No, we ask questions here, right?
Yeah.
What we do is it's more like a conversation.
Yeah.
I put this together just to kind of get things kicked off, but really, it's really about just asking questions and having a good time and looking at all these interconnections between the Old Testament, the New Testament, how God interconnected everything together. It's once you start scratching under that surface, it's amazing. I can't stop studying now. Used to, I didn't like to study the Bible. I'd be like, I'd rather do something else, right? Not anymore. Anyway, so we were talking about the things that we didn't get to see last week. So that was part of it. So basically, if you read Psalm 50, what I got out of it, again, it's the dislocated Psalm of Asaph. The rest of the Psalms of Asaph, they align with, starting with Psalm 73, they align with 73 years after Israel was reborn. And when you first recognize that, and you start looking at like the Psalms of Asaph, Psalm 73, and you see weird things that it mentions in there, like plague and wash your hands and beast and all these interconnected words with the end times, you start thinking, okay, well, that's interesting. And then you follow through and you read all of the Psalms of Asaph, and it seems like there's a pattern there. There's sort of the end times laid out in those Psalms, and they're sequential. The same with the Psalms of Ascent, Psalm 120 through 134. And so you see the same thing there. And, boy, I wish I had that graphic. Anyway, I don't have that. Darn. No, I don't. I had originally this really long graphic where I graphed all of the Psalms of Asaph and all of the Psalms of Ascent on a timeline. Like the Psalms of Ascent were on the top and the Psalms of Asaph were on the bottom, and you could see how they lay out. They're in the book, but we had to break it down into 5 pages, so it's not as easy to follow. But let's see. Pete, I want you to look at this real quick, because it will make more sense. Okay, so that basically just talking about how Psalm 50, as it falls into place here, is 50 years after the rebirth of Israel, which matches the 1998-99 time frame. Then, knowing that we should see signs in the heavens because Jesus said so, and the book in Genesis says so, there were these really interesting signs that were really unique in 1999, in August of 1999, which happens to fall right around Tish B'Av, which to the Jews that's the day when both temples were destroyed and they were kicked out of Spain on Tish B'Av, and they have a long list of all these bad things that happened on Tish B'Av, which falls around August time frame every year. And their rabbis, their sages, have long said that their Messiah will come to restore Tish B'Av. So they think he will be born on Tish B'Av, which is the 9th of Av, which is the month of Av. So just really interesting, that all of these things kind of fall into place right around there. So the point is, if he was born, the Antichrist I'm talking about, like their Messiah who they're waiting on, if he was born in 1998, 1999 time frame, when all these crazy things are going on in the heavens, as you can see here, these are all these newspaper articles from that time frame about the solar eclipse that went across Europe.
Yeah.
Of course, we know from Romans, from Daniel 9:26 and 27, it appears that he will come out of Rome. That doesn't mean he's going to be a Gentile, because there's a lot of Jews living in Europe, right? And then the epicenter of this being over Romania. Just a lot of really things you think, is all of that coincidence? That seems a little odd. And then if you add 30 years to that, when Israel becomes 80 years old, and they've never survived past 80 years old, the Antichrist will be 30 years old. Perfectly in alignment with all the other messianic figures in the Bible that are always start their kingship basically at 30 years old. Let me find this. Now, can you guys see that? I know it's really small. Maybe I do need the screen. So, Israel could cease to exist before 80th anniversary, according to the ex-prime minister. Okay, this is like a real deal. I've got a bunch of different newspaper articles that all say the same thing. And of course we have...
So the Jewish people have never exceeded 80 years in Eretz Israel as a sovereign united state. We're now 73 years old. Man, this time, we're not going to let it fall apart. We're not going to let it fall apart. That's why...
Who's this guy?
This is Naphtali Bennett.
Yeah.
So it went Benjamin Netanyahu, Benjamin Gantz. They were both fighting over the prime ministership at the same time. And there was that prophecy from decades before that said that there would be two Benjamins and neither one could establish a government. And then after that, the Mashiach is going to be standing at the door. And then you go and you look at all these different verses we're going to talk about tonight about standing at the door. Jesus, who's standing at the door? Well, it's Jesus, right? And that was the same rabbi. Normally I wouldn't listen to a whole lot of what they say, although God can certainly use them as to prophesy, right? But he was the one that said that he had actually met with the Messiah. He knew who the Messiah was, and he wrote it on a card, and 1 year after his death, he told all of his followers that 1 year after his death that they would be allowed to open the seal of this envelope, and it would reveal who the Messiah is. And it said Yeshua, which of course is Jesus. And so at the end of his life, he knew who the Messiah was, and it wasn't some guy coming, it was somebody that had already come. And then of course all the rabbis, all their followers, oh, this is fake. Some Christian must have broken into the vault and changed it and whatnot, and like, no. And then they did an analysis of the handwriting. It was his handwriting. But they still don't want to believe that because it says Yeshua, and they do not want Jesus as their Messiah. So anyway, the point here is that there, even in Islam, there are lots of newspaper articles now about the fact that they know there's this curse and they probably won't make it past 80 years old because they never have. Okay, they've always ceased to exist as a unified nation. Remember, you used to have Israel and Judah, right? So they were divided. So that doesn't count. And then they were under Roman rule. They were under Babylonian rule, Medo-Persia, Greece. So none of that counts. So as a sovereign, unified nation, they've never survived past 80 years. That is a pattern in the Bible that I believe we're going to see again. God established that for a reason. That means that 2028, they're all saying, this time we're going to make it, guys, come on. And what the Muslims are seeing right now is that they're very divided. So before the war, they were very divided. I mean, just like America right now, how divided we are, Israel was too. They were having protests all the time. They were going through this reform for their judicial system. And the conservatives basically wanted to change things to make it more conservative, basically. And the liberal, which there are a lot of liberal Israelis, right? most of them are non-religious. They're atheists. And so they want to keep things kind of like Biden would want to keep things here, right? That sort of thing. So they were feuding over that, and they were actually using the terms that you're hearing in America now a lot lately, like civil war. They thought Israel was going to end up in a civil war, and now, because of the attack that happened on October 7th, they're more unified. So a lot of the soldiers had said that because of this turmoil within the government, if there is a war, they're not going to show up. Like, they're not going to go and fight. But then October 7th changed all of that, and so they're unified again. So the Muslims, they understood this, and they know that the clock is ticking, and the Israelites, the Israelis, they know the clock is ticking, and that 80-year curse is hanging over their head right now, which again aligns with 2028, which aligns with exactly 80 years after their birth, which also aligns with 50 and 30, the Antichrist, if he was born at the 50-year mark, matching Psalm 50, which there are 6 Antichrist verses in Psalm 50, and Psalm 50 is an inverse of the tribulation period. So it's like the tribulation period as a timeline, it's turned upside down. So it starts with the end and then ends with the beginning. It's really interesting. I just don't think any of that's coincidence. I think God is so much more amazing than I ever gave him credit for. When you start really scratching below these surfaces, his ways are truly higher than our ways, and his thoughts higher. We're just like, we think on like a one plane, you know, and he's just all over the place. But it all makes sense, you know. I don't know. I'm amazed with it all the time. So, does anybody have any questions about the 80 years and how that's really a big deal? That's not something you're going to hear on CNN, you know. But if you're in the Middle East, all their newspapers are talking about it because they're at 75 now. And interestingly enough, if you look at the Bible, here's another timeline. God told Abraham to leave and go to the promised land, Canaan, when he was 75 years old. And what happened when he got to Canaan, there was a famine. He had to go to Egypt. And then all kinds of bad things happened. And things didn't actually clear up after that until, if you follow the timeline that's in Genesis, somewhere around the time that he was 84, 85, and then he had Ishmael when he was 86, I believe. So just as Abraham was in a time of tribulation starting in 75, at age 75, I believe, according to all of this, that Israel is also going to be in a time of tribulation it's already started. The tribulation period hasn't started. But October 7th was a really big deal. And I have no way to prove this, but I do believe that it's the start of the Gog Magog invasion. We've talked about that. The rabbinical sages, they've said for hundreds of years that the Gog Magog war of Ezekiel 38 and 39, it's not a one-day thing. It's going to last for 12 months, and then it's going to last for 12 minutes. It was prophesied that it would start on October 7th, which is pretty crazy because it started on October 7th. They prophesied that it would start on the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. It started exactly on the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. And oddly enough, it started exactly 50 years after the 73 war, the Yom Kippur War. Yes, sir.
Is that all in the book?
A lot of it. A lot of it is.
But I mean, like, when you say it was prophesied, it's really important to know who said that when.
Yeah, well, none of that's in the book because October 7th hadn't happened yet. So
I understand, but whoever prophesied that.
Yeah.
I mean,
If you go to their Talmud, like if you go to Sanhedrin 97a, it talks a lot about these things. So these are all in their rabbinical, extra-biblical
so how are you getting
writings.
a hold of those documents?
Mostly online. You could look them up.
So they are available.
Yes. So just as we have,
So did you
you know,
reference those in your book?
well, no, none of that's in the book.
Oh,
Because I didn't realize, I knew in the book that the Gog Magog invasion would happen this year, because it's laid out in Psalm 124 and Psalm 76. What I didn't know was the date it was going to start, because I hadn't investigated all that yet. So once October 7th happened, and I found a rabbi, let me show you this real quick. It'll work. Sorry, that's kind of blurry and small. So there's a rabbi, I think he's in New York, and he is a specialist in ELS, equal letter spacing in the Torah, the Torah codes, as a lot of people call them, right? On September 7th, I believe it was, which was about a week before the start of their new year, which started on September 15th, he was looking for 5784 prophecies in the Torah code. So he put in, 5784 to see if any of these ELS codes would come up in the Torah. This only works in the Torah, by the way. And this is what he found. And so basically a month before October 7th happened, he put this video out that shows Magog, it shows Hamas, Iran, Khomeini, Amalek, and I've explained what Amalek means to this, because Amalek, yeah, the Amalekites were the ones that attacked Israel when they came out of Egypt first, and they didn't attack frontal like soldier to soldier. They killed women and children and old people in the back of the pack. That's how they did it. Well, that's exactly what happened here. And then you go to, and this is, again, I got this from a rabbi that I was listening to. He was doing a whole, this was after October 7th. They found a pattern in the Bible that if you take their Jewish year, which is 5784, and you look at the 57 or the 5784th verse in the Bible, astonishingly, it typically aligns, like there's something prophetic in that verse. So 5784 brings you to Deuteronomy 32:25, which is the Song of Moses right before he died. And here's what it says for this year, according to this pattern. Outside the sword will take their children, and inside terror will strike the young man and the young woman, the infant and the gray-haired man. Coincidence? I don't know. So anyway, but this rabbi, he found this in the Torah codes, and interestingly enough, what you can't see there, because it's really small, but there's a portion there that is all about tabernacles. So the verse up there that's in Leviticus 23 about tabernacles talks about what the Jews do at tabernacles. They put these 4 different elements together. And Pete, you probably know about this. And for 7 days, they wave these every day. It's kind of like, it's not a wave offering. It's more just in celebration. It's a celebratory thing. But so this specifically then ties all of these ELSs, all of these words that he found, it ties it back to tabernacles. And again, as it was prophesied in the Talmud and Mishnah and all these writings, that it would happen on the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. I just think all this is too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. So, the 80-year deal is real, and that brings us to here. So we are, can you guys see that? Is it too small? So we are at the end of the 6th day.
we're at the end.
Yeah, we're definitely at the end of the age of grace. It's 2,000 years. Last week we talked about how, again, this is according to the Talmud, that Abraham was born in 1948 BC, okay? And at 52 years old, he began teaching about there being one God, because he lived in a world where there were many, many gods, right? He began teaching one God at 52 years old, which puts him at exactly 2000, the year 2000 BC, right? And then you look at this chart, which was done in 1918. People have realized this for a long time. This isn't new, right?
This was done in 1918?
1918,
Okay.
yeah. And if you listen, you go back and you listen to some of the early church fathers, they talk about the same thing.
So this is just all based on the scripture. It doesn't have anything to do. Most of the stuff that historically proves what they're talking about happened after they wrote that, after they did that.
Right.
Because in the 20th century, a lot of things happened that we can look back on and say, oh, okay, that puts a lot of things in line with everything that we read in the Bible.
Well, yeah, just like the technology that we have
That's what I
today.
mean, yeah.
I mean, you read Revelation 13, to us it makes sense today, but 100 years ago it wouldn't have made any sense, you know?
But they wrote that 100 years ago. So
Right.
That's what's interesting about
Yeah.
it.
So if you look at the top right hand, you see the church age more magnified, and then you see the rapture happening there at the end of that big
Yeah.
oval.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now. I mean, we're at the end of the 2,000
We're
years.
in the season of his coming.
So if the Essenes were right, and Jesus was crucified and resurrected in 32 AD, right? If you take 7 years off of that, because everything has to be completed, take 7 years off of that, you're at 2025 for the start of the tribulation. The rapture's got to be before that, and guess what year that would be? That's where we're at. And the Psalms of Asaph and the Psalms of Ascent both indicate the same thing. And then when you take the 50 for Psalm 50 and you add 30 years to that, you end up at the 2028 for the middle of the tribulation. Matthew 24:15, Daniel chapter 9 verse 27, Revelation chapter 12. We're talking about the time when the Antichrist sits in the temple and declares that he's God, right? I believe he's going to be 30 years old, just as the pattern that's established. It just all fits. It all fits. I'm starting to wonder, like, now I realize, and what I always say, is that this is a lot of evidence. There's a lot. It's a mountain of evidence, okay? But there's no proof. There's no proof until it happens, right? So is the rapture going to be within the next year? Well, I think there's a lot of evidence, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen, because just like with King Hezekiah, God gave him 15 more years. He could put a pause in here, okay? So God is God, he's sovereign, and I would never say, oh, it's absolutely going to happen. But there is a mountain of evidence that, well, here, I got to have a slide for everything, okay? There's a mountain of evidence that it's really soon. I mean, that's really what the book is about. Let me back up. The book isn't about that.
Got a slide for it.
The book is about the mountain of evidence, but it's also about the fact that no matter if it's this year or in 15 years, what are we supposed to be doing, right? We're here for a reason. There's a Great Commission, and I think, I'm going to speak for myself, most of my life, I would call my life the Great Omission. You know? And there's a lot of unsaved people.
I think most of the church would have to admit to that.
Yeah.
You know, how many
Yeah.
people have you gotten saved in your life?
Right.
Crickets.
Well, if we liken it to a harvest, I've said this before, it's like I went through my life, you know, I'm supposed to be in the harvest, right? I'm the worker in the harvest. I'm in the field, and I've got this basket, and it's empty. So one day I think I'm going to show up to, you know, stand in front of the Lord and go, oopsie,
Right.
I got nothing to show for my life.
Right. But you,
Well, I made a living, you know, I did this, I had hopes and dreams, but I was building my kingdom and not his kingdom. And I think that's really the point of the book. It's not to say it's absolutely going to be this year or next year or in 15 years. It's to say time is short no matter what. Because if you look at, here, I got a slide for everything. If you look at this one, no matter how you slice it, time is short. I mean, we are at the end of Zebulun. So if you look at if you look at the 7 children that were born to Leah, you know I haven't even started this yet. If you look at the 7 children that were born to Leah, their names represent the timeline. Jesus is of the line of Judah, right? He was the 4th. So in Jesus, when did he come? At the end of the 4,000th year, right? He's the door, right? Jesus said he's the door. He's the only way. The door in Hebrew is symbolized by the letter, by the number 4. It's the dalet, which is a door. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, that red part, that's a dalet. Okay, it's
The blood on the doorpost.
yeah, exactly. He's the lamb that was slain, right? He's the door.
Yep.
So then you look at how Jesus relates to the number 4 throughout Scripture. Okay, it's really crazy. Here's something that I just found because I can't stop. I can't stop. Yeah, I know. One day I'm gonna actually get a car out of here. This is the first. This is the interlineary Hebrew to English, and I hope you guys can read that. Basically, this is the first verse of the Bible, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, so in Hebrew, I probably should have been talking to this the whole time. In Hebrew, it's basically, you can break it down. In the beginning, created God the heavens and the earth. Now, what's interesting about that is you see the 2 letters right in the middle, 4th from either direction,
Yeah.
right? That's an aleph and a tav. And it's not translated. It has no word meaning. What it does is it suggests more of a... It's really hard to explain because we don't speak Hebrew, but it points at something else, okay? So it's not translated in English, or I don't think it's translated in any other language. It's only there in the Hebrew. What is an aleph and a tav? Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Tav is the last, okay? It's literally translated the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Jesus, what does John 1 say? Who was the Word? Who was everything created through? He's the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
This is in the first chapter of the Bible. What does the last chapter of the Bible, Revelation 22, say? I'm going to tell you because I have it right here, if I can find it. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Jesus is the Aleph and the Tav. Notice the position of this word. The Aleph and Tav is the 4th position out of 7 words, directly in the middle, 3 before it and 3 after. Now, if that's not amazing enough, right? These are things we don't pick up in English. You have to go to the Hebrew to see this. Now's where it gets really crazy. So in Paleo Hebrew, this is what those 2 letters mean, or that's their symbols, okay? You see the cross, that's the Tav, and you see the other one, which is a Paleo version of an ox head. It means strength. It means God's strength, okay? Now, I want to show you something. As we were talking about 1999, right? Those are the solar eclipses from 2017 till now. On April 8th, the same day that most of the country will see that devil comet, this will be completed.
The devil?
The devil comet.
The devil comet?
Yeah.
When is that? Coming up?
In April. It'll be visible. So it's a comet. You haven't heard about that?
No.
So there's a comet that's going to be visible in April. It's going to be closest to the Earth. It's not going to hit the Earth or anything,
Yeah.
but it's going to be visible at the same time of the solar eclipse. It's going to cross America again.
Yeah.
It blew it. I'm sorry. This isn't coincidence, right? Comets don't have horns. I can't find online anywhere where there's another comet that has horns. But what they suspect happened, it used to not have horns, but recently They think two jets blew out, like gases or something, blew out each side of it. And so the way it looks now in space through their telescope is it looks like it has horns because this stuff is coming out of it, creating this horn effect. So they're calling it the devil comet.
Huh.
Okay. Now look at what you see there. You can see the Tav, and then you could see overlaid the Aleph, the beginning and the end. Now, let me back up a little bit because
The beginning of the end.
the beginning of the end, yeah. The reality is, since 2017, we will have the 27. Now, what else happened in 2017? The Revelation 12 sign we've talked about before, right? That was also 2017. 2017, I look at it like this. You know, a lot of people thought the rapture was going to happen in 2017 because they knew that Revelation 12 sign was coming. No, that doesn't make sense to me because God established a pattern of 7 and 7, okay? Like Jacob had to work for Leah, 7, Rachel, 7, Joseph, what happened, right? We got 7 good years and 7 bad years, right? So I wouldn't exactly say that the last 7 years, all of them have been good, but compared to what's coming, I think they've been really good. Now, I'll be honest, under Trump they were pretty good. Under Biden, not so much.
Yeah.
Okay? But, you know, Jesus talked about before it happens, like the days of Noah, they were eating and drinking, they were partying, giving in marriage and all this kind of stuff. He made it seem like times would be still kind of normal, and then it happens. And that's what I see here. I think there's a 7 and a 7 going. So from 2017 till 2024, there's 7 years. Then you've got a space. Well, also, this is a Shemitah year, according to the Essenes, and 2025 is a Jubilee year. Jesus was, according to the Essenes, Jesus was crucified on a Shemitah year. Shemitah year is a year for war. What started this year, 5784 in Israel, war started. You can't make this stuff up, right? There's just so many interconnections. Anyway, so I see an Aleph and a Tav overlaid there. So guess how long it's been since a total solar eclipse came across our country, like across the whole country?
7 years.
Jim.
That was my guess too.
7 years? No, before the 7 years. Yeah, because in 2017 it happened. Okay. Before that, it was 1918, the year of the Spanish flu, and World War I. Okay? Guess when the next one will be across America?
You're saying it's gonna happen this year,
Yeah, no, but after this.
2034.
No, I wish that were true. That'd be cool. 2045.
Oh,
So my point is, this is very rare. Like to have 3 in a 7-year period of time is completely unheard of. Kind of like 1999, 3 things in 1 month, basically. That's unheard of. It just doesn't happen. But it happened. And so we're seeing this. At the same time, a devil comet is going to be visible.
What's the time frame on this thing? Is it gonna be within a month of each other?
Okay, so the one that goes from Oregon basically to South Carolina,
Yeah.
that one happened in 2017.
Oh, okay, that's.
The same-
That's already taken place.
Yeah. So it's the same time frame as the Revelation 12 signs. There's a lot of stuff going on that year, right? That was also, just
I
for
remember that
context.
because there were people in Utah watching it.
Yes, exactly. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
So for context, though, what else happened in 2017 that relates to Israel? That was the year that President Trump declared Jerusalem the capital of Israel again.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really big deal, right? In 2018, he moved our what do you call
Embassy?
it? Embassy, thank you, to Jerusalem, kind of making the declaration real, okay? But 2017 for Israel was a big year. That's when Jerusalem became the capital again. Jerusalem is that cup of trembling. It needed to be this way for the end, right? Remember, everything's about Israel. It's not about America. Okay, I'm going to back up, and I'm not even going to look at this anymore because we're just talking. Okay, so I love America. Okay, I love America. I love everything about America that we were. I love what this country was based on the people, not necessarily the government, right? But I'm a patriot. I love this country. However, there have been a lot of Freemasons and people like that that have been in charge and in control, and they've not had the best. They've not had Christian motives, let's just say, for this country. If you ever do any research on the seals, like the Great Seal, and you've got the all-seeing eye and all the numbers and stuff like that, it gets kind of crazy. What's that?
The pyramids.
Yes, exactly. The Eye of Horus above it, and then you can do some study, and I have a little bit of it in my book in chapter 38 about how the Freemasons are wanting to resurrect Osiris, Gilgamesh, Nimrod, whatever you want to call him. Right? He's called by different names, the essence of the same entity. That's who they want to be their world ruler, and they've been working towards that goal for a long time. These are the people who, some of which established this country and have ruled this country, and they are looking at this country as the phoenix. Okay, originally they didn't want the eagle to be the symbol. It was supposed to be the phoenix. Because if you go back to their writings, some of these writings, and I'll have to find them. None of this is in my books. I didn't talk about any of this stuff, but they wanted the phoenix symbol to be on the Great Seal on the front side, and then the all-seeing eye is the back side, right? Which is the Eye of Horus. And the point is that America was supposed to basically be like a new Atlantis. They believed a lot of weird stuff, right? And they believe that America is going to be basically torn down and then rise from the ashes with this Antichrist, who we call the Antichrist, in control. The resurrected Osiris. Okay? What does it look like our government's doing to our country right now? Wouldn't you say they're trying to just tear this country down? Everything they do, every time you turn the news on, you think, they can't be that stupid. But no, the reality is they're not that stupid. They're very intelligent. It's just that when they say they're doing something good, it means completely different from what we say something good, right? This is Isaiah 5:20. Basically everything that's good is bad and bad is good and light is dark, and we live in a crazy time, and I believe that what they've talked about for a couple of hundred years is actually, by the way, there were 2 solar eclipses during the Revolutionary War that didn't go across the nation, but they went across where the 13 colonies in like 1778 and 1780, I think, during that time. Kind of interesting. And then there's like a huge gap where there aren't anymore, right? Just food for thought. It's kind of interesting.
How many of these have already taken place? Just the one?
2.
2.
Yeah. The one that we're waiting for.
Oregon?
Yeah, the one that's going to be on April 8th is the one that goes up through Texas.
Yeah.
Interesting, Texas is always in the news right now, right? And there's an X across Texas right there, and it goes up through Maine.
I just think it's interesting that it's centered over the United States, and how much, like you're saying, the beginning of the end for the United States.
Yeah.
Because as a world power.
Yeah.
I see us not being able to come back from what's happened in our culture over the last 5 years.
Isn't it amazing?
I mean, the ideology is the biggest problem, because you can fix financial problems, but you can't fix ideology. We know that from the Muslims.
We're so divided.
There's so many people out there that have a bad view of America and think America's a bad country. A lot of our young people have already been swayed that way.
They go off to college and
they go off to college and they become these people, powerful people that can, judge. That they become judges. They become all these people that have sway.
Yeah.
Deceived from the get-go.
Well, look what happened to Trump today.
I heard.
I mean, that judge.
Yeah.
I mean, that judge needs to have his thing revoked.
Yeah.
What happened? I haven't heard it.
They made it, he got a guilty plea, a guilty verdict from that.
In New York.
That one in New York, that gal that was suing him, that she said, I'm gonna go to, this is why I'm gonna be, you know, the DA or whatever. She said, I will make sure and sue him, and they got $355 million out of him, and nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
Nobody complained. There was nobody there was no reason for it, other than she wanted to just sue him for something.
Wasn't that the case that was all about like just saying that property value was one thing,
Yeah,
and they're saying it's
she
another?
Used that
And
law that she used to do that was a law that was supposed to really, it was in place not to, for civil stuff, but other stuff.
Yeah.
It was for me and you.
right.
You know, where like a realtor would tell us it's worth so much, and then we would sue the realtor.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really a strange deal, and that judge could have just said, "Well, okay, let's find out." He's gonna of course fight it, but let's find out who exactly you swindled, and let's get that money back.
Mhm.
355 million, you said?
Yeah. So the thing is that nobody got swindled. So when they go back to court to fight it, of course, the election will be all but over.
Right. It's just to smear him. It's a witch hunt.
Sure. And the point is that our judicial system has been taken over by a bunch of radical weirdos.
Yeah.
And like it or not, if you are conservative, if you're a person who has a point of view that's opposite of theirs, you better watch out.
Right. They're
Because
coming after
they
you.
will railroad you.
Mhm.
They will do whatever they want to do to you, and there's nobody to stop them from doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the problem.
They own the system now.
They
Well, if they're the
Yeah.
highest court in the land, who can stop
No,
them?
it's not the highest court. It's not the Supreme Court. But you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All these courts, all these jurisdictional courts have been taken over by radicals,
Yeah.
True.
and so it's just a really I don't see how we'll ever come back from it.
I don't think we are.
No, I don't think.
I mean, when you connect
I think
all these
God will
dots
take care of
together,
us. I
yeah,
think, you know, we'll be
right.
fine. But you know, it's like you're just going to have to trust the Lord. But then maybe that's a good thing, because the church hasn't been trusting in the Lord. They've been trusting
No.
in their wallet. They've been trusting in their job. They've been trusting everything but the Lord. And maybe this is God's way of getting us to turn our hearts back to God
Yeah.
and get us focused on Him.
COVID was an eye opener for
Oh, yeah.
churches. A lot of churches went along with the government. Thankfully, you know, you didn't, but
They
went
also-
along with the government. Now a lot of them are closed and just
Yeah.
it's just defunct, and
They
it's
also
terrible.
say COVID was a prophetic event.
Oh yeah.
And
Well-
all those stores that had the 6-foot distancing and the masking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All those stores, Payless and all those stores, they're all boarding up now.
Right.
In cities,
Yeah.
because they allowed the whole thing to happen, and that led to the next thing, which was them being ripped off.
Yeah.
So now there's mayhem on the streets, and they can't even keep a store open now.
Right. Everybody just orders online,
Yeah,
which
well, the
really
first
became a
step-
thing then.
The first step was closing the whole down.
Yeah.
And then going along with it, if Payless and Walgreens and all those people said, we're not shutting down. we're not going to have people wearing masks. We're not
Right.
going to 6 foot.
They should have stood up and said
They should
no.
have all stood up and just said, no,
Yeah.
we're not doing that.
Well, that brings me to something that I didn't plan on talking about, but the farmers in Europe.
Yeah,
You guys been
I saw that. They're all going.
So what that's about is basically they're trying to put them all out of business through regulation.
Yeah.
And then what they want is like huge corporate and like Monsanto's to come in and do all of the farming, right? Because this is all under their world, you know,
Because then the government
umbrella.
will be in with something.
Exactly.
It'll be a government thing.
They're all in cahoots, right? And that way they can have their way. And if they want to shut down farming and they want people to starve, which I think is probably coming, well, they can do that. They've got to put just like they want to put all the small businesses out of business. Look at California. It's tough to run a small business. But if
Tough
you're a
to
big
farm,
business,
too.
oh yeah, here we'll roll out that AB5. Do you remember in 2020? That law that came out here, AB5, put all the gig workers out of business, basically.
They rolled
Yeah.
that back, by the way.
Well, they only rolled it back for certain people, like if you're a lawyer or a doctor, basically a high, money person, or Uber, because those are big businesses now, and Lyft. So they gave them exemptions. But like the small, like Princess Company or whatever, no exemptions for them. It always only hurts the little guy. Their buddies all get exemptions. It's rotten. It's absolutely rotten.
Should be illegal.
Well,
That's an understatement.
But who's in charge? That's why it's not
exactly.
illegal.
Right. They own the system and they can do whatever they want. California is a perfect example when you've got all Democrats running the place, right? The Republicans.
Basically a communist state.
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
anymore.
Republicans
Right.
run around with the Democrat.
Yeah.
The McClintock guy, he voted to
Yeah.
not to get rid of Mayorkas. What's with that?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of rhinos, unfortunately.
The same. So you see, and the only reason this comes up because it affects our life. And we say, oh, we don't want to get into politics, but why shouldn't we be into politics?
Well, Jesus was
It
into
affects our
politics,
life.
so yeah.
He was a king.
Well, and it affects the church if you think
Jesus
about
is a
it.
king,
Sure, it
right?
does.
Yeah.
He's part of a kingdom.
Right, right. That's politics.
Affects the church body in a huge
Yeah.
way, because we are the church body.
Well, I mean, they want to shut churches down. Look at Canada. Look at, countries like that. They want to shut churches down. The beast system is rising, and the beast doesn't want competition.
No.
So it goes without saying that eventually they want to shut, they're going to get rid of books like this. They're going to get rid of the Bible. That's why I'm going to say this right now. I know that the online ebook is cheaper, but I would rather people buy this,
Physical book.
a physical book, because all they got to do is boink, delete, and your Bible online, all the books that
All
you've
gone.
got on there are all going to be gone.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to allow people, like, let's say that the rapture happens in a year from now, which is hypothetically, right? And we've got all these ebooks, and they delete them. Well, then for somebody to come in and say, wow, I know that Carl, let's say, I know he was a Christian, and what was he reading? What did he know about this? Because he's gone now, right? Well, they're going to come in, and there's not going to be anything on my laptop because they were all gone. They were all in the what do you call it, the cloud or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we need physical things to leave behind. And sometimes I think that sounds crazy.
The World Economic Forum is rewriting a Bible for
Yeah,
everybody.
AI, yeah.
It's just rewriting a Bible for everybody to get along.
Right.
So they're taking everything controversial out of the Bible and rewriting it to be more Unitarian.
Yeah.
Basically a Unitarian Bible.
Then it's
Right.
not even a true Bible.
Well, yeah, but my point is they're doing that, like he's saying, so then they can click and delete all the other ones. The only one now you can get is this one. So the only thing left in print will be what's already printed.
Yeah.
They'll just basically shut down everything else.
Everything
It was,
will be gone.
Yeah.
Or controlled by them.
Control. not gone.
Back in the 70s, one of those globalists, Henry Kissinger, he had talked about how to control the world, basically you need to control the food, the energy, and I think the press, information, and that's,
Healthcare.
well,
They're using healthcare.
yeah, well, absolutely. When Obamacare came along, I knew that was a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
That was never going to be good, and it didn't reduce anybody's.
No.
Everything went up,
Yep.
Yeah.
But the point is that's how they're going to control us.
The other thing they said was, the World Economic Forum said, was the only way you're going to get the Christian, the only way you're going to fix this situation for us, make it so everybody complies, is you got to destroy the family, like you're
Yeah,
saying.
the nuclear family, the real family.
The family
Yeah.
is what holds us together, and our
Mhm.
religious beliefs hold us together. So those are the two things. The Judeo-Christian belief had to be destroyed in America.
Yeah.
So the family and Judeo-Christian belief, and they already had control of the media. They already had control of a lot of the other stuff. But if they could break those two things down, that's why we see all the transgender things. going
Yeah.
on and
Oh,
all this
yeah.
stuff
That's
going on.
all demonic.
Yeah, it's all about breaking down the nuclear family and about breaking down our religious beliefs.
That's
In fact, Lori watched a movie today. She watched this movie, and I don't recommend it. It's really stupid. Some guy is having this dream, and it really is. We have a hard time figuring out what is this movie about. But I think it was meant to, in a very subtle way, preach that you don't want to believe in anything. Like, you shouldn't believe in anything. Everything is just a lie.
Yeah.
And I go, you know, the enemy is so subtle.
Yeah.
The way he'll put things in movies and like even cartoons and stuff. They'll
Oh,
put
yeah.
these messages in cartoons and movies, and people will watch these things thinking they're so benign, but they're not.
Right.
It's little by little, seed after seed, planting seed after seed, and pretty soon you don't even know how you got to your beliefs, but you got there through all these little tiny seeds.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what's happened in America.
Well, that's why Tammy doesn't do the Disney thing anymore, because they were one of the biggest perpetrators of that. You know, Disney.
Oh,
All the transgender, you know, homosexuality.
Yep.
They were pushing it in all their TV shows
Very
and
subtly,
movies.
but they
Yeah, it was starting to get kind of in your face, though. You know, it was kind of coming out,
yeah.
and then there was a little blowback, and now they're kind of like pushing it back a little bit, but they're exposed. We know who they are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, talk about the disintegration of the nuclear family. This allowing a 14-year-old kid to have a sex change without their parental consent. I mean, that's evil.
Yeah, totally.
Plain and simple.
Well, welcome to California.
Yeah, without even the parents having to.
You know,
offer it.
BLM has that same goal. It's to destroy the nuclear family.
Yeah.
And all these white people
I
are like,
agree
go
with
BLM. Like,
Yeah.
No, I agree with
you might want to look and see who you're aligning yourself with, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, people are, I don't
Sorry
know.
to hijack your...
No, I don't know where we were. I had all kinds of stuff to talk about Israel and stuff tonight, but I don't know. What time is it? Anybody know? How are we doing?
7:47.
13 to 8.
Okay, so I guess we'll start wrapping it up. Wow, we were just all over the place tonight, but it was good.
Well, we did
I
cover
like
the
it.
part about these things, which is very interesting to me, and the beginning and the end thing. I wrote it down.
The Aleph and the Tav
Yeah,
being right there, yeah.
And you know, so a lot of people put online now the whole thing about, you know, God sent Savior thing in that first verse there. But this is the first time I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're saying there's several different translations of that in the
Well, in Hebrew,
Jewish, in the Hebrew.
well, in Hebrew, it's always there. The Aleph and the Tav are right there, and I wrote down.
Yeah,
'cause
but
I-
you said there's another type of Hebrew. There's two types.
Oh, yeah. So the Aleph, here, let me show you real quick, because I have this here. So this is this is modern Hebrew.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. This is modern Hebrew.
Yeah, that's the top.
That's what their letters look like today.
Right, take a picture of that.
What are those two letters?
Aleph and Tav. So it's basically A and Z if it were English, okay? And they read right to left. So the Aleph is on the right hand side.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, they
So-
read right to left.
Yes.
So the Tav is the end.
Yes, exactly.
Beginning and end.
So in Paleo, so what Moses and Abraham would have written, those letters look like this.
Yeah, that's interesting. How did they get the transition? Who changed it?
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't know what generation
'Cause see,
did that.
Hebrew was almost a forgotten language up until 1948 when they became a nation again.
Yeah.
They mandated in Israel that everyone who moves there is going to learn Hebrew, and that's their national language is Hebrew now, right? Well, they have a different way of writing than what was Paleo Hebrew, is what it's called. So when you see like really old tablets that they'll dig out of the ground in Israel, that's the
written
type,
like Paleo.
that's the way it is, yeah.
Huh.
But they know what letters are what.
So how do they know what letters are what?
That I'm not really sure.
Well, somebody was keeping records.
Yeah. So I mean, it was actually, from what I understand in my research about, because I kind of had the same question. There have been 4 versions. So this was Paleo. This is like really ancient, and then there was another version that kind of looked like
So
this.
it slowly changed.
It slowly changed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it sort of
'Cause that's a big
metamorphosized.
change. What we see is a big change.
Yeah.
You're saying there were several renditions of that.
Right.
To get to what we have.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get like the Paleo Aleph. where you can see how that kind of looks like a bull's head. It's
Yeah.
got ears and horns and kind of the snout, right? And then you see a cross for the Tav, which also means covenant. So all of these letters have a symbolic meaning, and they also have a numerical value.
So Tav means covenant?
Yes.
Oh,
The cross, it's a cross, literally, it's like two sticks crossed,
Yeah.
and it means covenant. And the ox, the aleph, means like God's strength,
Oh.
is what that stands for. So, and then, oh, let me just do this real quick because this is super important too. I think it's on my last page, and then we'll close out for the night. And I'm gonna do a closing prayer because we got started and just skipped right over that. We just started talking, and
I do not see the bull in that.
you don't see a bull up
I
there.
see the bull.
So his head is sideways. So the nose, the snout would be here.
Yeah.
Those are the horns, and that's the ears, kind of going this way.
Oh.
He's got his head
I went the
tilted.
wrong way, but anyway,
So the nose, the two sticks going up would be the horns?
Well, the one's going that way.
Oh, I see, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Going this way, the horse, and the one up and down.
Maybe their cows all walked around like that. I don't know. So here's another interesting interconnection. Okay, so this is the Jewish year starting on September 15th of 5784, okay? So every year they look at the last two numbers, which of course are letters also in Hebrew, the 84. Remember that Jesus is the door, right? So we know what the number 4 is. It's a dalet, and its symbol is a door. It's a doorway. So they don't do it like.
Tav is a doorway.
I'm sorry.
I said Tav is a doorway.
No. Tav means covenant. The cross is a covenant.
When you throw it up in the new version, it looks like the same way as the other one. It looks like a door.
Interesting, huh? They're very similar.
Are they?
The Tav has this stick on it, like this,
Yeah.
but the dalet
That's
doesn't.
the Dalet there.
Yeah, that's the dalet. So it's just the red part.
You go to the Tav and then go to the other one now.
Okay, the Tav has the left-hand side stick
so
on
that
it
the
Oh,
Dalet
I
doesn't
see.
have the left-hand side leg.
No,
Doesn't
no.
have a leg.
because it's an open door.
Oh,
You get it?
yeah.
So the symbol is an open door. And now, interestingly enough, let me find it here. This is the pay. Pay is 80. So when you're saying like 84 in English, it's the same in Hebrew. It'd be 84. You wouldn't say 84 because 8 is a chet, and that has a different meaning. But 84 means, look at it, it kind of like they look at it like this. It kind of looks like a mouth, and those are the teeth right there. It means a command. It means a word. It's the word of God. It's spoken. It's like a commandment. It gives it's a verbal thing. Okay. So when you put the two together, this is interesting because we know. Sorry, my air compressor kicks on and everybody jumps out of their skin. So we know from our New Testament, right, that Jesus is standing at the door waiting for the Father to say, go get your bride. And that's, John 14. I mean, we can go through the list, right? We talked about several of those tonight in Revelation, in Matthew, in Luke, and Mark. Jesus is the door, he's the only way, and he's standing at the door ready to go get his bride, correct? Okay. Of course, the Jews don't understand that. So the Jews are looking at this year, because it's 84, they're looking at it like the year of the open door. That's what they're calling this year, because of the two numbers, right? So they think an open door to a successful business. They almost look at it sort of like it's an astrology thing, like it's your horoscope, right? But if God put this there, it's not about, living your best life now. This says something else to me, because what's going to happen at the rapture?
Yeah,
Which everything points to
The door was
this.
opened in heaven, and he said,
That-
come up here.
Yeah, Revelation 4, right?
Yeah.
And what did he hear?
Yeah.
A voice
A voice, yeah,
that sounded like a trumpet
telling him
Yeah.
to come up here.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you look at all, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. They're always like there's a sound, which is the pay, the mouth making a sound like a trumpet, and then and a command, come up here. And it's the door, and Jesus is standing at the door. I just think it's not a coincidence. I think it's just too much.
The sound of many waters.
Yeah.
When he speaks.
So, does any of this seem like just pure coincidence to you guys, that everything kind of points to the same thing in this time frame?
Question, could it have pointed to the same thing at any time frame? That's the question he's answering. It's like, we can say for sure that it doesn't look like a coincidence today.
Right.
But would it not look like a coincidence in 1984? Would it not look like a coincidence in 1965? Would it not, would that same feeling been there no matter what?
Well, for the Jews, it would have been 100 years ago. So instead of 5784, it would have been 5684 for them.
And another thing I want to say before we leave, because the time is well on 8 o'clock.
I got it now.
When you said that this comet's coming and they call it
The devil comet, yeah.
devil comet because it's got the horns. The thought that came to my mind was, and I don't know if this means anything for you. Think of it as a bowl.
It kind of looks like that.
Think of it as a bowl. How does that work into the prophetic picture? I mean,
Yeah, if it's like,
I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, brother. But
well, think of, okay, here's another one. So Jesus is seen as the lamb who was slain, right? And what's he surrounded by? By 4 living creatures, one of which is a bull, right? One's the face of a person, one's an eagle. The eagle, I believe all 4 of those represent Jesus at one, they represent, to me anyway, this isn't something I've read, this is just something that I believe, right? That he's at the center of those 4 living creatures. And then if you go back to Ezekiel chapter 1, you see someone like the Son of Man sitting in this contraption basically, and it's got the 4 living creatures also. So he's, I believe, so the lion, so he's the Lion of Judah, right? He has the strength of God, the ox, which is the bull, right? Because that's the Aleph, he's the Aleph, okay? The Alpha, the Omega, all that. He's not only the lamb, the eagle. So if you go back to when when Israel left Egypt, they escaped like on the wings of an eagle, right? Then you go to Revelation 12, and what are they going to do? It's likened to an escape like on wings of an eagle again. There's this flight, even in Matthew 24:15. It's likened to flight, like they're going to Israel is going to flee, but like as flight. So there's that flight element, like an eagle, all throughout these scriptures that all interconnect with each other. So he's that also, and I think I left one out. Anyway, ox, lion, eagle. What am I leaving out? There's one more.
Bear.
No, it's not. No, that's not a bear. That's
Just
no.
threw out a name.
Those those are in Daniel.
that's
Yeah.
I can't think of it right now.
man's face.
Yeah, there's man. So he's the Son of Man,
Yeah, that's
Lion.
man.
the lion,
The eagle.
the eagle, and what am I forgetting?
Gosh, I've read it.
Can't think of it.
Anyway, he relates to all of those. So I believe they sort of represent a different essence of his mission. I want to
I'll have to check that out now. We'll look it up.
I want to end with, where is it? Darn. Uh-oh. Oh. So as I can't help myself, but I continue to study, I once you find these timelines, I can't not see them now. They're all over the place. This is just a handful that I have in my notebooks that I've been looking at and still have to go through a lot of these, but these are all timelines that I'm finding in the Bible that all relate to either time as a whole, like Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. There's 6 alephs in there, and then you have the aleph and the tav, right? And you see that Jesus, who was there in the beginning, everything was created by him, spoken from his mouth, right? He's right in the center of that as the number 4, which is the aleph and the tav. Well, there are 5 other alephs in there. Aleph represents 1,000 years. So you go back to our chart, and there are 6,000 years of man's human history, right? And then the millennial kingdom. Even the rabbis talk about this. This is their little chart. Well, they basically believe the same thing. And they get this from the first verse of the Bible. Isn't that crazy? This is from a Jewish website.
So they think that Jesus is coming, or the Messiah is coming in the 6,000th year. So they're already primed for the Antichrist.
What? Yes. Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. So this is what I want us to understand. They knew that at the time that Jesus came was the start of the Messianic period for them, right?
Yeah.
They know they're at the end of the Messianic period, and they believe that God has been prolonging sending the Messiah because of their sins. They have to do more good deeds. See, for them now, because they don't have a temple and they can't do the sacrificial system, they sling chickens and they do good deeds. That's what they do, okay? So they believe that they're not good enough. They're not helping their fellow man. But when they say that, they're not talking about Gentiles. They're talking about other Jews, right? That's why the Messiah hasn't come. But they know that they're at the end of that 2,000-year period. They know he has to come, and they're expecting him right now, and they're expecting him to come and fulfill their wars and do all this kind of stuff.
That's the Antichrist.
Yeah. Yes, their Mashiach, we talked about last week, is who we know as the Antichrist. He's going to come, and he's going to check all of their boxes. So their wish list that Jesus didn't fulfill, he's going to check all those boxes.
Yeah, like they wanted Jesus to be a political leader. They wanted Jesus to
A warrior.
suppress all the other religions.
Come in glory.
They wanted him to
Power.
take
Jerusalem would be
Authority.
the basically the capital of the world. Basically, that's how they see the Mashiach. He's gonna rebuild the temple. He's gonna reinstate the sacrificial system. He's going to be a Hebrew Torah scholar. These are all things that their rabbis for 2,000 years have been saying and writing. Okay, so they have their checklist, so to speak. Number one, he has to be from the line of David. So when you hear pastors talking about he's going to be a Gentile, there's no way. They will never accept a Gentile. People say that because they have a Western mentality. I used to think the same thing. But when you listen to the rabbis, there's no way they would ever accept him. He has to be a Jew from the line of David. He has to literally reestablish the Davidic dynasty. That's the
be able
point.
to prove that. I mean,
Yeah.
he could be what qualifies as a person who comes out of like Rome or Greece or
They have-
somewhere. He could come out of anywhere as long as he can prove
Yeah.
that his lineage
He's in
goes
the
back
David.
to
Right.
David.
Well, that's what I believe. I believe that
Look
he's
at
going
how
to
we got
come.
Me and 23andMe now, so we can figure that out. Right?
Yes, and they say they're going to give him a blood test.
Yeah.
When they suspect someone is their
Yeah.
Mashiach, they're going to give him a blood test. And I'm pretty sure that they have David's remains because there's a David tomb in Jerusalem. And I had a picture of it, and I think they've gone through it, and I think they've done DNA samples, and they know what they're looking for. Because they specifically say they're going to test them, right? So I totally agree. And I said this before, so if you think about it, when you look at the Messianic writings, you would have thought, okay, so the Messiah is going to come out of Bethlehem, right? But then also it looks like he's going to come out of Egypt. But then also there's something about Nazareth. So none of that would make any sense. But now we understand it in hindsight, right? So Jesus was born in Bethlehem. He moved to Egypt. He came out of Egypt and then settled in Nazareth. So it makes sense now. And I think the same thing will apply to the Antichrist. He's probably from some European nation, but he'll be a Jew from the line of David. He has to be. So that's why I think it's interesting. You go back to Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, and you see that it looks to me, it appears that he comes from the Roman Empire, right? Because they're the ones that tore down the temple.
Do you feel like he has to have some tie to Islam? I think he has to have some tie to Islam.
Okay, I believe, I have a different belief about this than I think anybody I've ever heard. I believe that, so the Islam, they're looking for their Mahdi, their 12th Imam.
Yeah.
They also believe in what's called a Dajjal, which is their sort of Antichrist figure. And interestingly enough, he's got like one eye missing and all this stuff, and we know that the Antichrist is going to take a mortal wound to the head and something in Zechariah about his arm, and so all of that kind of fits. But I have this, I guess I'll call it a theory. I believe wholeheartedly that Islam was established for the Antichrist to take down, to make him like, who can make war with this guy? Remember, that's what it says in Revelation. I think they've been put there by the devil to be destroyed by the Antichrist when he takes control. I don't think he is he might be their Dajjal, but he's not the one they're waiting for as their savior. I also believe that he's not only going to know the Torah, but I think he's going to know all of the books, and what he's going to do to create this unity of who's left to make a one world religion. He's going to explain what it all means.
That's what I think.
Yeah, so he's going to say,
I think he's going to have some sort of tie, like his uncle or his father was Muslim or something like
yeah,
that.
well, that's very, very possible.
And then what he's going to do is he's going to explain.
Yeah.
He's going to mansplain to him.
Yeah, he's going to connect everything and see. Now I'm going to tell you what all this means because
Well,
I'm
all he's
really
gotta do is
smart.
go back to Muhammad and say, look, Muhammad's real goal was to fix Christianity
Yeah, and Judaism.
and Judaism.
Yeah.
That's what his goal was.
Right,
He didn't go set out to start a new religion.
right.
He set out to fix all the corruption that had come into the religion of his day. Because he saw all that corruption. He saw it all. He said, this is not what God said. You guys are living like the devil. And
Yeah.
he was a holiness guy. That's what he was. He was a holiness preacher. And he was preaching holiness to a very corrupt Roman world. And so in that Roman, or I guess in that time frame, it was very decadent, very evil, and he was just trying to straighten everybody up and say, you cannot live this way. God does not approve of this way. He doesn't approve of your lifestyle. And then they took it and made a religion out of it.
Yeah,
But he was really, from what I understand, he was a converted Jew or something like that. He was from that vein. And he had, gone to the Christian side, I think, and then saw the Christian church and said, no, this is not, you got these popes and you got these, he saw all that. He said, that's not godly. You're worshiping saints, you're worshiping idols, you're doing all this stuff, and he didn't go for that at all.
yeah. It's kind of like most false prophets, or so to speak. There's usually like 90-something% that's right and good and
Exactly.
true, and it's that bit of deception that's in there that
Right,
kind of
he just tweaked it a little bit.
yes, that little bit of leaven.
Which is how the Antichrist will
Well,
be. He's going to fulfill a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
people's ideas of what
Yeah,
the Messiah
he's going to look like the
will
best
be.
thing ever.
That's
Like,
why I
wow,
think
this
you're
is the
right.
guy,
I think
right?
You're right about that. I think he's going to come in. That's how he's going to make peace.
Yeah,
The
Yep.
Bible doesn't say anything, or even in Daniel, it doesn't say anything about him coming in. He comes in subtly, very
Yeah.
subtly. And
Crafty, very crafty, yeah.
He gets everybody to go his way.
And that's the
So he's
definition
got
of
a
how
really-
Satan operates.
Well,
Very
exactly,
crafty,
because
very
Satan's
subtle.
first deception was his tongue.
Yep.
yeah.
His first deception with Eve was with the tongue. So this guy is going to be a
Yep.
smooth talker.
Oh yeah. He's going to be Obama on
He's
steroids.
going to be very charismatic, and he's going to be
That's scary.
very smooth.
Yeah, yeah.
It is scary.
Thankfully, I don't think we're going to be here to see it.
People are going to just go for this guy.
I keep
That's
wondering.
the scary part. That's the scary part for the people that get left behind.
Yeah,
Because what do you do when you're a Christian? You know this guy is the Antichrist because you got left behind.
yeah,
Keep your faith so you can still go to go
But my
home.
point is that everybody's gonna fall for this guy, just like we watched our whole country go with this whole thing with COVID.
Yeah.
And everybody's going like, what are you guys doing?
Well, Jesus said it and Paul said it, deception. It's all going to be deception.
Yep.
And yeah, I say
Deceiver.
get saved and find a relationship with Jesus now while it's free and easy, baby, because
Yeah.
it's going to be very, very difficult in the
That's
tribulation
what I keep
period.
saying, it's
Yep.
the days, like we said, pray now, because the day is coming when the night comes and
Yeah.
no one can work.
Right.
You gotta work while it's the day. And that right there, that 2,000 years, that's the day period.
Yeah, and it's about to end.
It's
The
about
harvest
to end.
is coming to a close.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that goes back to the 7 festival days, where it's all about the harvest.
Yeah.
And the Feast of Trumpets is when the gate is open, right? But then the Feast of the Day of Atonement, the gate closes. And that's like the rapture and the end of the tribulation, so to speak, in that period of time. There again, there's a gate that's open, right? So it's a door. A door and a gate is the same thing, basically, in the Hebrew mind. Like the city gate is really a big door, right? But they call it a gate. So, but it's the same thing. Jesus said, he talked about the sheep gate, and then he interchanged, and it's a door. So it's all the same. But the point is that door is closing. It won't be fully closed until the Day of Atonement, right? At the end of the tribulation, the judgment day, basically. But I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And all it takes is, you need to be saved and you need to have a relationship with the Lord. You don't need to just say some magic words and think you're good. I totally don't think that I know the Bible does not prescribe that. That's not God's doctor's prescription. Here, say these magic words and you're good to go. Sprinkle yourself with a little water and you're all.
That's the part that disturbs me about certain online pastors, when the way they approach their end of their shows, and they say,
Yeah.
well, just say these words with me and you're good.
Yeah.
And no.
It's all about a relationship.
Yeah.
But I think, and this is my a caveat to that, is their purpose in doing that, though, is, and we have this book we want you to get, New Believers book. They're hoping to grab them and get them in some sort of a New Believers class.
Right.
So I'll give them that. They're just saying, I only got 10 seconds here, 15.
Yeah. We got to start here.
I got to start with just
Right.
having you
Yeah.
pray with me. Then, hey, we'll send you a free book and you call
Yeah, but
us.
that's definitely not all there is to it.
No.
Yeah. I mean, salvation is free, but it's not that free.
Yeah.
God expects something of us. It's not a magic word and then you're done. Yeah.
Expects a commitment.
If we don't want to spend time with him, then why would he want to spend time with us?
Well,
Right?
I just feel like it falls back on the 4 soils.
Yes,
And
exactly.
It does, and those, I see that as a maturity process.
Yeah.
Those soils as maturity. So the first one, there's no maturity.
Right.
That person heard the word, believed it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I heard about the Jesus thing.
And walks away,
And walks
basically.
away.
Yeah.
Oh, I even prayed the prayer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem with it.
Because he says they did receive
They
it.
receive it.
But then the cares of the world, all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff takes hold, and they fall away.
Yeah.
There's only one of those that actually took root and worked. So
Or 100.
that's the perfect example. It's not about just say this prayer and you're good to go. It's
Right.
not.
It's a commitment, but it's a change
Yeah.
of your mindset and your heart. Your belief system changes from, okay, I'm sufficient to do whatever I need to do.
Yeah, and it's a process.
That's
Yeah.
why I never judge anybody, because what he just said is true. Only God knows the heart.
Right.
Because
Right.
there is a person that can pray out there in that moment of time, and it's instantaneous, and they get it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't judge whether that person did the right
Right.
prayer. It is salvation by grace through faith. So if they have the faith to believe, like you're saying, Jim, and they pray that prayer in faith, believing in Jesus, God's going to save them.
Yeah.
But I don't know what their salvation is going to look like unless they get in a church and start walking the walk. That's
Right.
the problem. You can be saved, and then you can look like, well, you look like everybody else.
Right.
And that's what he's saying is
Worldly living.
transformation's supposed to take place.
Right.
And walking that walk.
Well, there should be
that's
some
part of
fruit.
the sin
Yeah,
and the
fruit.
roots.
Yeah,
That's
fruit.
part of sin and roots down in the good soil is that walk. We
Pete,
can live that life.
the rest of that verse, though, it goes on to say that, to do good works that God had
Yes.
prepared for you in advance.
Yeah,
That's I think,
it's true.
yeah, that's the fruit. Like, here's my basket was empty, now I want to put some fruit in it,
Well, that's
right?
what I taught on
Well, the
last
30,
night.
60,
was-
100 fold is fruit.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
That's what I taught on last night was works. By our works, you can see our faith.
Yeah. Works don't save us.
No.
But once you're saved, you should want to do the works
To bear fruit.
to bear fruit.
Yes.
That's the Great Commission right there.
Exactly.
That's why I said earlier, it's like, for most of my life, I would have to call it the Great Omission, because I was focused on me and my family and building a career and, all that stuff, right?
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with all that, but seek ye first the kingdom of God, right? And I wasn't.
And all
I wasn't
the
seeking Him
You know the
first.
one I talked to about the Evil Knievel thing? I
That
talked-
sounds familiar.
Sunday, Lori, we were watching a special, it was for TBN, it was on TBN. It was a gentleman talking about his testimony, and he brought in Evil Knievel. He said, Evil Knievel, very well known, very high profile person, but when he hit 80 years old, he had a God experience. God came to him in Florida. He had quit. He was no longer doing anything. God said, I kept my end of the bargain, but you didn't keep yours. He told him that.
No kidding.
And he had a transformational experience with God. He became a Christian. And on his tombstone it says, believe in Jesus.
Oh, amen.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a lot of scars because of Evil Knievel.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid,
A lot of kids do.
yeah, we'd build ramps and get our little Huffy bicycles and go down the hill and whoosh, and then just crash and
Don't try this at home.
yeah,
I have as
started
many
that later
scars as Evil Knievel.
yeah, exactly. Back then we didn't have pads, helmets,
No.
anything. Like a tank top and a pair of shorts, right?
You were a sissy. You wore shoes, you were a wimp.
Yeah.
Have you noticed all the YouTube things with these kids jumping off the roofs and stuff that stopped? I think it was a fad for a
Yeah.
while, but they got so hurt and so
Yeah.
banged up after a while, people said,
Finally got a clue.
I wish we'd have had camcorders when I was riding.
Oh yeah, man.
I'd be on.
I've kept you here, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Anybody have any questions about some of the crazy stuff we talked about? Everybody kind of see how these things are so interconnected, though?
Yeah.
The Bible and what we're
Amazing.
seeing, Jesus said, there'd be signs in the sun and the stars and the moon and, all these things. And look at, well, it's not up there now, but just, we're seeing it.
I'm gonna be looking for that tomorrow.
And like you said, you can't make this up.
No, there's too many
Too
things.
much
You can say
evidence.
one or two things, that could be coincidence, right? But it's just like, that's why I said it's a mountain of evidence
yeah.
right
It's
now.
piling up,
Yes.
keeps piling up.
Every week I find